What is up, guys? We are back with another episode. Today I wanted to talk about sacrifices. I feel like I am at the point in my life to where I understand that sometimes we're going to have to make sacrifices that we don't want to make. And unfortunately, it's going to be understanding that you may need to make this sacrifice in order for you to, move forward in life. Especially if you're trying to, I guess, for self-improvement, self-betterment, if you're trying to, reach a higher state of being, self-being, it's going to require you making a, significant sacrifice. You're going to have to be willing to let go of things that may be holding you back. And you may be, some of us, I feel like a lot of us honestly, are aware of those things that are holding us back, but we don't want to accept it. Or we are stubborn in trying to find a way around, not having to let that person go or not let that vice go, whatever the case may be. In many cases, it is, a person or a habit that we have to let go of in order to progress, to reach a better version of ourselves. And accepting the fact that we are not going to be able to bring every single person that we want with us onto the next chapter. Unfortunately, that may be one person. That may be many people that you'll have to let go of. It really just depends. Sometimes we tend to continue attacking the problem, and we continue finding ourselves in the same spot over and over and over again. And that's because we're not necessarily taking a step back to look at the bigger picture. We think, well, here's the problem. I just got to keep charging head on, and we charge with the same tactic. We're not doing anything different. We just go about it the same way. Like, no, well, I just got to, keep giving it, all I've got with this same effort, with this same strategy. No, that is not the case. That is not going to work. Sometimes you got to step back, look at the picture, and see where, see where you are, missing some kind of approach where you could be, applying a different kind of strategy. See what's affecting that bigger picture. See what doesn't need to be in that bigger picture. And for myself, it took me a while for me to realize, that there were certain people, certain habits, certain vices that I had that were really holding me back and keeping me from progressing and reaching a better version of myself. And that's not to point the finger, blame others, because we have to take accountability. At the end of the day, always. Taking accountability is the most important thing when it comes to, self-growth, progress. You can't just blame everyone for where you are in life, and what's happening to you in life. And you also can't sit there and throw a huge pity party, why me? Because life's just going to happen. And it's unfortunate, but there has to be a balance in life, just like there is with, death. Good days, bad days, slow, fast. Everything has its equal. And so at some point in time, you will have to make a sacrifice for the things that you want. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't have these, bad vices in your life and expect to have success or expect to have wealth. Or, maybe you're looking for a better relationship with your partner, with your family, with your friends. And unfortunately, they aren't fond of, certain habits that you have, drinking, smoking, things like that. Are you willing to make those sacrifices? Are you willing to sacrifice a rocky relationship for a relationship with yourself, a better relationship with yourself. You know, maybe you're with a girl, boy, and you know, y'all's relationship has been pretty rocky for the past, let's say, 6 months. You guys are fighting off and on. And it's getting to the point where it's now starting to interfere with your productivity, you know, whether it be for work, whether it be for a business that you're trying to start up, maybe a dream that you're trying to chase. If this relationship is now starting to grow so chaotic that it is affecting every other aspect of your life, you have to decide, are you willing to make the sacrifice to let it go and let it be, or are you going to sacrifice the time that you could be putting into the goal and, you know, the things that you're trying to achieve? Are you going to sacrifice those things for the relationship? Because maybe in this relationship, the problem is that you're giving too much time to these things and not enough time to her, him, you know? So ultimately it would come down to, what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice pursuing those goals, pursuing, you know, a better, you know, better version of yourself? Because at this moment, let's say you're not happy with who you are, where you are, how you look, you know, in life, and you're trying to pursue something better. But in doing so, you are now taking time away from, you know, your relationships with, you know, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends, your family. And so now you're kind of in the middle here, you know? You have to decide, where is your time going to go? Are you going to remain with this version of yourself, but pursue these relationships? Or are you going to let those things go, accept the fact that maybe these aren't meant for you, maybe this isn't what you need at this moment, and focus on, you know, your goals? Or are you just gonna try to fight it out? Are you gonna try to tear yourself between two things that you want, when what you need is here, you know, the self-improvement, self-betterment, success, or what you want, you know, a relationship, your girlfriend, you know? And it's not going to be the same for every single relationship. It's not going to be the same for every single person. Not every sacrifice is the same, okay? Some are going to be a lot bigger than others. Some are going to be, you know, minor, little minor sacrifices. You know, stop smoking cigarettes and you'll improve your teeth, you'll improve your health, you'll improve your lungs, you know, things like that. Which, I mean, it seems like something minor, but it has such a huge impact for your future self-betterment. Are you willing to make that small sacrifice? Because, I mean, like, let's be honest, smoking a cigarette, what does that do besides what others say? You know, oh, it calms my nerves, it helps me relax, blah blah blah. What does it really do? You get bad breath, your teeth start to yellow, you know, you get gum disease, you get, you know, you eventually, that odor just sticks to you in your clothes. Do you really want that? You know? And then down the road, look at all the problems that you're gonna have. So it's like, no, it's not ideal. And it's the same with life, you know? Are you going to make a sacrifice for what you want? Or are you gonna make a sacrifice for what you need? And a lot of us, we're not prepared to make the sacrifices that we have to make for what we need, you know, in life. If you're wanting a stable relationship and you're wanting a average life, then stick to those, you know, stick to that route. Be satisfied, I guess, so to speak. Be satisfied. Be content with where you are, if that's what you want. But if you want the greater things in life, the best things in life, you're going to have to make sacrifices to get there. You're not going to get there doing the same shit that you've been doing each and every day, you know, and in the same. All right, so I'm a little bummed, a little irritated, honestly, because while recording this video, I had a call come in which stopped my video and I was unaware of it. So I kept going as if my thing was still recording. I really got to get, my camera hooked up um, so that I can do this without having to worry about things like that or running out of storage space, you know, whatever. But, anyways, basically, like I was saying before I got cut off, was that, you know, are you going to be willing to make those sacrifices that it's going to take for you to get to where you need to be? Um, rather than us living in fear and in doubt and, constantly questioning ourselves. If there's somebody holding you back and you know you need to let them go, um, don't make an excuse to keep them in your lives. Don't make an excuse to continue, this repetitive cycle. If you know that that's preventing you from reaching a certain goal or getting to where you want to be, where you need to be, not want to be, but where you need to be, you've got to let them go. Um, you're not going to be able to bring every single person in your life with you. And, or every single thing, every single habit, you cannot continue doing that. You can't keep doing the same shit and expecting different results. It just doesn't work that way. Um, at some point in time, you've got to understand that you're going to have to sacrifice, a lot of things, really. And that's just, the fact of the matter. I myself, I'm now to the point where I realize, that I have to make sacrifices. Sometimes I have to sacrifice, like I said, that time with my family. Sometimes I have to sacrifice that time with my loved ones. Um, and it's not to say that I don't make time for them at all, or like that I just completely, blow them off. I tend to give most of my time to my craft, to perfecting my craft, to pursuing what it is that I want to do. I know that, in time, this is all going to pay off, what I'm doing and what I'm pursuing and, you know, trying to master my craft and trying to, build something for not just myself and my future, but for my family, for my son and, just trying to make something that will carry on for him as well. Um, and yeah, I mean that's what keeps me driven. That is what keeps me going. Um, Especially when I'm having my days to where I'm like, well, did I just make the right choice? Was that the right thing to do? Uh, should I have done that, said that, whatever. Um, and just always take accountability. Always take accountability. Uh, it's going to make a huge difference once you start to realize that a lot of your problems and a lot of your lack of success is because of yourself, because of the decisions that you make, the habits that you have. And you got to, like I said, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and see what it is that you've got to cut out of that image and go from there. You know, don't try to overthink every single thing. If you know in your heart and in your gut that you've got to let this person go or you got to let that thing go and you got to stop doing this, that, or the other, maybe you should listen to your self intuition. Maybe that's just your higher self that you're trying to pursue, telling you, like, hey, it's about time we get rid of this. We got to stop this. We got to change this. So, yeah, I know my video would have been a lot longer. And I did say different things, but I'm not the type of person to like write any of this stuff down. You know, I don't do any of that. It's more so I record on the spot, especially when I'm having thoughts. I'm the type of person to just record in that moment what I'm thinking and just kind of let things naturally flow. I don't feel like I have to write anything down. Maybe I should. Now that I, think about it, maybe I should start writing these things down so that things like this do not continue happening. because, like I said, it is very frustrating when I'm going on like a 20-minute spiel and then I stop to, because I've ended the video and then I go and turn to look and there's a black screen and I look at the video recap and there's only 9 minutes of a recording. Highly irritating. Um, so yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and end it on this note. But I do want to know, what is a sacrifice that you guys are willing to make? What sacrifices have you made, if any? And are you willing to make the sacrifices that are, needed for you to get to where you're wanting to go? Are you willing to let go of, that toxic relationship? Are you willing to sacrifice, time with your girlfriend, time with your friends? Um, what is it? Are you willing to sacrifice sleep? I know a lot of people, they would much rather sleep than do anything else. So, are you willing to sacrifice that? Are you willing to sacrifice, temporary happiness and temporary pleasure for a lifelong, you know, happiness? What is it that you guys are willing to do today for a better tomorrow? Um, I know that it is the holidays. Christmas is literally right around the corner, so I do hope that everybody is having a blessed season. I hope that everyone has a blessed week, a great week. We are just starting, so make sure you guys started off strong. And yeah, man, I appreciate everybody that's still watching the content. I do hope that everyone is enjoying so far. And if you enjoy this video, please, like it, subscribe, share it. Um, and again, drop a comment, man. Let me know. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what sacrifices you've made, this year. This year was, I feel like this year was crazy, but let me know. That's going to be a different topic, but let me know what you guys think. Um, and what sacrifices you made and what sacrifices you're going to be making, if any, soon. Um, and yeah, man, as always, much love, positive energy to you all. Thank you all again so much for your support. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.